Hi there! Welcome to episode 125 of the WaveBack Music Podcast. My name is Kris.
And I'm Matt.
And we're here to listen to the most interesting video game music there is. Here in the United States, games for the MSX home computer are mostly a mystery. But elsewhere in the world, Konami was filling the platform's lineup with some quality products full to the brim with their signature sound. Get ready to do some spelunking, because tonight we listen to the music of The Treasure of Ushas for the MSX computer system. Well, hello, Matt. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I am fantastic. I'm very excited about this episode.
I am too, mostly because I've never even heard of this.
It's quite a thing, and I've never played it. And
clearly,
I have a fun history with it, which we'll get to in a bit. But I mean, what? I got nothing else to add. I just want to jump in to listen to this music, right?
I have even less than you have to add.
Fantastic. Well, Matt, hit us with some history.
I shall. The Treasure of Ushas was released in 1987 for the MSX2. It's a single-screen action platformer, as the MSX wasn't great with scrolling like the NES was. As the story goes, the Vedic mother goddess Ushas had some sort of run-in with the war god Indra, and was ultimately banished. She had a jewel of some sort, which was split into 4 pieces and thrown to the wind. You play as Wit and Kless, who travel the Silk Road on behalf of Professor Atlee, and try to get the shards together so you can save their department at the museum. It has a very Indiana Jones vibe to it. What made the game unique was its emotion system, which the player needed to master in order to progress, including using specific emotions to unlock boss doors. The game has a bit of a cult following, and was even released on the Wii U The game has a bit of a cult following, and was even released on the Wii U Virtual Console in Japan. However, it has never seen any sort of official release in the United States.
The game's composers are a bit of a mystery to me. The only credit I can find of any relevance is for the Konami Kukiha Club, a band of musicians who worked for Konami composing game music back in the old days. But the members changed frequently, and I wasn't able to narrow down specifically who wrote what. But whoever they were 100% classic Konami, as you're about to hear. There are 4 different versions of each song in the game based on which emotion your character is currently exhibiting. Tonight we're going to focus on the neutral versions. So, let's dive into our long-involved personal histories with this game. Matt?
Yes.
Tell me of the countless hours you've spent playing The Treasure of Ushas on the MSX computer system.
The statement you just made is longer than my actual FaceTime with this game. My first time ever encountering this game is the day you mentioned, "Hey Matt, we're going to do this game." And I said, "What the heck is that? I've never heard of it." I looked it up on the internet and said, "Ooh, that cover art is amazing."
He said, Ushas.
I didn't, because I still don't know how to pronounce that, but, you know, it's fun. We tied it together. I won't lie, though. I did spend a sizable amount of time looking to see who it was that drew that cover, who illustrated that cover. I didn't find any answer, because I think I told you, I thought it was the gentleman who did, like, the Indiana Jones posters and the Star Wars posters, but I couldn't find any information on it, so that's my history.
Mine is only slightly more involved than yours. So I'm a huge fan of classic Konami NES games. You know, Blades, the music in particular. Particularly think of like Contra, Castlevania, Blades of Steel, Stinger, all that wonderful silver box stuff. Love me some classic Konami music. So, I, way back in the before times, the long, long ago, I discovered a YouTuber by the name of Banjo Guy Ali. He was just starting out, and I absolutely loved what I heard on his YouTube channel, and I followed him, and I subscribed, and I listened to everything he did. And one of the first songs that he did that I had never heard of before, not the first, obviously, there were a couple, but one of the earliest ones was a song from The Treasure of Ushas, and I fell in love with it. I thought it was a fantastic song. It was, he called it, Mohenjo-Daro, which is interesting because none of the tracks that I found had that name. I have that song in here, but none of them have that name. And since I don't really know a lot about the way this game really functions, just kind of we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I asked him about it because since I found his YouTube channel so early, it was pretty easy to get a correspondence with him, and we kind of became friends. And I asked him about the game, and he told me all about it on the MSX, and he did a little episode of it on his MSX Mansion series when he was going through MSX games for a while, and I was just utterly fascinated by it. And unfortunately, I have no good way of playing it. And then I kind of put it out of my head for a while. Like, I never bothered tracking down the original version of the song for some reason, because I'm a goober. And years later, he did, I think just a year or two ago, he did another song from Treasure of Ushas, and it's gorgeous. His rendition of it is amazing. And just the past couple of weeks, I've been listening to he does a Twitch stream of like almost all of his music every weekday morning. And so I've been following along with that, and I keep hearing this song. And I last week or so, before when we recorded our last episode, I heard it. I was like, that's it. I'm doing this. We're doing Treasure of Ushas. I want to hear the rest of this classic Konami music and talk about it and see if it's as good as these two songs that I've heard are. So I brought it to Matt. Now here we are. Download the music.
And here you are.
Yes. We are
Our
ready.
faithful listeners.
Yes. We're all here together to discover the treasure of Ushas. So let's get to work, shall we?
Yes.
It's not a tremendously large soundtrack, which, is to be expected from a game of this vintage. So we played the introduction over the beginning of the episode, so let's dive into Stage Select. I'm assuming this is the song that plays when you select which stage you're going to go to.
Huh, how about that?
Right, craziness. Let's give it a listen. Here is Stage Select. Enjoy. Oh, wait a second. Hold on.
I'm holding.
I have a couple of names attached to this. I just realized when I downloaded this from I don't even know where I downloaded this soundtrack from now, but I have two names attached to it: Kinuyo Yamashita and Motokai Furukawa. So it's entirely possible that this soundtrack was written by these two. Interesting. I'll do a little research on those two characters while we're listening to this song. Here is Stage Select. Enjoy. What'd you think?
That was a lot of fun. I especially like that secondary melody. Ba boom boom ba boom boom doo doo. Like that was, I don't know if I don't want to call it the bass line or the drum line because it's unfortunately kind of ambiguous as to what it is, but I really like that. Like that vocal melody. Dun, 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 like that's cool. That's really cool. But then to have that secondary melody behind it, just kind of giving it a little pep. That was really cool. I like that a lot.
Well, I also dug it quite a bit, and it definitely had that classic Konami flair, and I can see why if these are, in fact, the composers. We have, let's see, Motokai Furukawa has worked on... Jeez, we got some special thanks. He's just listed as staff of Treasure of Ushas, which was my problem. I saw, there's a staff credits, but it's just, here's the staff. But for other games listed for game credits and audio, we've got Nemesis 2, which is a part of the Grady series. You got Metal Gear, the original Metal Gear. Super Contra was a music editor, composed for Snatcher, Sunset Riders, and looks like Castlevania N64. Yeah, Castlevania for Nintendo 64.
Huh.
More to the point, though, we've got Kinuyo Yamashita. It was a name that I didn't recognize immediately because I don't know why I didn't recognize it immediately, but she worked on Castlevania the original, on composition for Castlevania. Also on Nemesis 2, Usha's composition listed here, so there you go. I found that listed as composition. I can't believe I couldn't find any of this stuff beforehand. Also worked on Snatcher for MSX, Proteus. Wow, quite a Mega Man the Wily Wars for Genesis. Wow.
Jeez.
So yeah, this makes a lot of sense as far as as far as overall style, especially with the stuff we're about to hear, not just that simple little bit that we heard, which I liked quite a bit. Don't have a lot to say about it. It's
I feel like I know the answer to the question I'm about to ask, but I'm going to ask anyway. So you mentioned up front we're going to be listening to the neutral versions of all of the stage songs. This stage select, I assume, falls outside of those parameters. It's just the one version, and it's...
Yes.
Okay.
Just
checking.
the 5 stage themes, and really the only difference is, like, you know, the darker the emotion, the more minor key the song is played in.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So let's move on to stage 1. Here is what I found as Peggy Ruins, stage 1 from Treasure of Ushas for the MSX, which, as we go on, one thing that I have noticed in the little bit that I have heard of this soundtrack is there's very little in the way of percussion. It seems to have worked on fewer usable tracks than the NES did, because I did a big comparison of the MSX version of Vampire Hunter versus Castlevania, which has the same soundtrack, but there's very little in the way of percussion in the MSX version, and I think that's the similar situation here. And I don't know, take that for what you will. Anyway, here's Peggy Ruins. Enjoy. Peggy Ruins from Treasure of Ushas, and I loved that. That was very, like, not quite Goonies 2, but, you know, it kind of feels like that same... It's just filling me with feelings of that exact era in gaming. And it's so wild hearing this because it's all new to me. It's like this whole era, this whole chunk of that era of gaming that I'm unfamiliar with. And it's kind of mind-blowing, but I love it. It was, you know, just complex enough to not be super simple and had just enough to it to not be too repetitive. It was some pretty solid stage 1 music. I liked it.
First, I didn't want to. I wanted to mention I didn't mean to leave you hanging in there. I thought you had more to say, and then you did, so I was like, okay. I will absolutely agree with you. It's funny how you said this is the first time you're hearing it, but I feel like there was a but to that, and that but was, but I'm so familiar with this.
You're right, yeah.
Because Konami's got the Konami sound, you know. And speaking of the Konami sound, I love a lot of the instrumentation, like the choices in, you know, I recognize, you know, there probably wasn't a ton of choices to be made. So it's like, listen, man, we got 8 crayons. It's going to be one of these 8 colors, you know? But
you know, when you're listening to an NES game, you can tell when it's a Konami song. Like 9 times out of 10, it's like there's a very specific way that they made those instruments sound on the NES that was very specifically Konami. And it's neat hearing this too, because it's not the same instruments, but you can tell it's the same sensibilities.
Right, absolutely. And just like you said, like this is great. It's like you said, it's complex enough not to be mundane. It's there's enough going on that it doesn't get boring immediately. I even like they do a little bit of dynamic, boom, 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 dip, back to the song. You're like, rest, go, and that helps too. You know, things like ear fatigue and stuff like that. You get your brain gets tired of hearing the same loop or whatever. It's fun. It's a little palate cleanser or whatever in such a small song. That's really good. Yeah, I'm excited to hear more actually.
Me too. So let's do it. We got another short one here. This one was listed as between stages, so I'm assuming there's some sort of like gap or something between stages. It's a relatively short track. It's only 33 seconds, and it probably loops. So let's give it a listen. Here is Between Stages. What a delightful little tune.
What I appreciate about what we've heard so far is there's a characteristic of adventure video games in the music, which is weird because now all of a sudden I'm thinking what came first, the chicken or the egg? Did the adventure game come first, or did the soundtrack make the adventure game? Yada yada yada. Anyway, I get this. I get a sense of like high adventure, you know, and obviously the storyline for this game lends itself to some super high adventure. You know, having never played it, I don't know. I've seen some screenshots, side-scrolling platformer. You know, the emotion element has definitely piqued my interest. I'm very curious. I didn't watch any Let's Plays or anything because I like to come into these things blind and really kind of just give my first impressions. But after this, I really want to see that in play and how that affects, you know, certain aspects of gameplay. Obviously, we mentioned up front, opening up boss doors and things like that. But that being said, yeah, the stage select and the in-between, like not the, you know, we've only heard one level so far, but they really do give a level of high adventure. Like, you had mentioned Goonies too. I mean, like, the Goonies movie is just, you know, massive adventure, and the game itself is the same, you know, the same thing. So this is super cool so far. I really appreciate this so far.
I'm glad to hear it. This next one's a winner, man. This next one is my favorite. I mean, I can't say for sure because I haven't heard all of it. I intentionally did not listen to the rest of the soundtrack, but this is one that I know. This is the reason we're doing this episode. This is the song that is in Ollie's current mix, and he did it, I think, a year or two ago. It's called Dunhuang Ruins, or as he calls it, Juba Ruins. I'm not sure what the difference is. Maybe this song is used in more than one place, but it's the Stage 2 theme, from what I've come to understand. And this is an absolutely beautiful piece of music, and I can't wait to share it. So let's give it a listen. Enjoy. right, that was the Juba Ruins, or Dunhuang Ruins. And what a wonderful song! I love that tune! It's so... I mean, it's not, but it is so classic NES. It feels like a classic NES song I never heard before, and it's... I just love that part where it goes into the... But it's all the notes are dancing around it during that, and it all just kind of matches up in this really beautiful way, and of course when it all just kind of comes back together with this sort of dramatic high adventure, it's so cool. I really love it. I just adore it.
That part that you just mentioned, the high dramatics, that was my favorite. I mean, listen, I'm gonna agree with you. That was a fan-dabby doozy of a song.
Ooh.
Sorry, I was just watching DuckTales.
Or Flintstones. I wasn't sure where you were going with that one.
No, I said fan-dabby doozy, not yabba-dabba doozy. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's a different podcast. That was such a great piece. Like, when it started, I was like, oh, okay. And then it all comes together, and it's, you know, it's doing its counter melodies and all the stuff floating around the main melodies and stuff. And that's one of the things I think I appreciate the most so far, is out of all these tracks, like, there's a lot of these complementary melodies and notes that float about the main melody. Because I feel like you could very easily get into simple video game music. You know, I think there's too many soundtracks that are fairly simple, but to take it the step further and really treat the music like music. This isn't just background music for a video game. We're making music here, you know what I mean? I think that might be part of the Konami machine. I don't know, the flair of it, whatever it is. I think that might be it, is that the composers really looked at it like, we're making music here. And this is a prime example. You know, however many channels they had and choices in synthesizers or whatever the case was, they did a fantastic job.
I totally agree, and I will put a link to the truly wonderful cover that Banjo Gaiali did of this. It's probably going to be playing underneath our talking right now when the final recording, but it's a lot slower than this, and he keeps a percussion beat running throughout the whole song, and it's just delightful. But what a wonderful song. Oh, let's keep going. So next up is Alche Ruins, which is stage 3, and I don't know what we're in for, so let's give it a listen. Enjoy. Well, that was a very specifically ancient temple-y, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I really liked that piece. That was cool. It was very almost stereotypically like this is pyramid level
right
kind of music, but not really in a bad way. Like it was pretty cool.
I didn't like it.
Aw.
I loved it.
I
I got him. I gotcha.
Got me.
I fooled you.
Nailed it.
No, this was fantastic. Everything about it. Right, the little flute. Do 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 do. You know, you're like, oh, someone's charming snakes in a temple or something. And then just the sparseness of what I will only describe as drums, and then having them come in and giving it like a. I hate kind of being like this, but to say like a jungle doom 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 doom, like
yeah,
and it kind of takes over, and it the track goes over there for like a moment or two, and then it kind of comes back. But then even when it's coming back, one of the things that really leapt out at me was how that main melody was given some level of reverb. Was given some level of reverb to give it space. I always talk about space, tracks having space, and giving maybe perhaps a 3D environment. Giving that space really made it kind of pop up above those drums, which I thought was fantastic. I've never done the research or really, sat and pinpointed, but I'm very curious as to when they were able to start adding reverb to things and a level of echo or I should say delay to give it that echo feel and start making tracks start to feel bigger than they are, or giving the impression that the space the player was in was bigger than it is, because that's absolutely what happens here. It's fantastic. It's just a great track so far. I mean, the track before this I loved. This is a really, really close race though.
The one before this was definitely more my style, but I appreciate this one a lot.
Sure.
It was just a lot of, it was just the right amount of fun. Very Indiana Jones. Kind of makes me wish Konami made an Indiana Jones game. Although there was another Konami game that's like almost an Indiana Jones game. It was a Famicom game, and it never came out in America, and I can't remember what it's called. That's going to bother me. But anyway, let's keep going. Let's move on to stage 4, the Alche Ruins. It's another one I'm completely unfamiliar with, so let's dive in. Here it is. Enjoy. Ooh, I liked that one.
Again, that's another one I loved.
Yeah, that was good.
I think the last two ones you had mentioned, the one that Ali covered, is more your sensibilities and your style. And I think these last two are more mine. A little darker, a little more intense, a little more, I'd say drum heavy, which is weird to say because it's not really drums in any of them. So I guess by default they're drum heavy.
They are percussion heavy. Even though they're not specifically drums, it's like the bass line is is filling that role.
Yes, thank you, because it's got that doom 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 doom. So it's not necessarily walking, but it's definitely a driving bass line. And to go back to something you said earlier about the notes playing around it, this one had notes like right out front, you know, like it definitely was a very driving song, and there has an element of I don't want to say chaos, but that boss level stuff that gets you a little, your blood pumping a little bit faster. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Definitely is a very, very good track. The main melody, very in league with the last one. Again, not a bad thing. Just another solid piece of music.
Yeah, 100% with you there. It is very in line with the last one. It's stylistically speaking, the songs have all been pretty different from one another so far, and the Alche and Hansa Ruins stages are both pretty similar tunes. Like, those are very much companion pieces, but at the same time, it's different enough that it is still unique, and I really liked it. To go back to what I was saying before, the game that I was talking about is Arumana no Kiseki, which was only released on the Famicom. It was a Konami game that translates roughly to The Miracle of Almana, and it's really neat. I saw a video on it on Jeremy Parrish's NES Works Gaiden, which is it's basically a side-scrolling Konami Indiana Jones game, like right down to you're a dude in a hat. Like, clearly it was supposed to be an Indiana Jones game at some point in development, and just wind up using their own characters instead. But it's a really neat and interesting game. Something I might put on the list to do in the future. All right, let's move on to the next track, which is the first song I've ever heard from this game. I've heard the Ollie version, and I've heard the original version a couple of times in my life. That is the Agra Ruins / Mohenjo-Daro. This is a really cool song. I don't know what else to say about it besides a really cool song, and we should listen to it. So let's do it. Here's stage 5. Enjoy. That was the Agra Ruins / Mohenjo-Daro from Treasure of Ushas, and man, what a stage theme, huh? That's some killer stage music. That first chunk there reminds me a lot of like it gives me some serious Yuzo Koshiro vibes, especially if thinking about like Legacy the Wizard in that first chunk. But then it goes like when it starts hitting the slightly more major notes, it's so Konami. It's so cool. I love this. Love this tune. What a good track.
I couldn't agree more. Last 2 or 3 tracks I've been very much into, and then it just keeps getting better and better. Again, we get that bit of a driving bass line. This wonderful composition with melodies and the counter melodies again. It's just another, I don't know, it's just such another great track. But I will say this: I'm listening to all these, and you're telling us these are the neutral positions for the track, so to speak. I'm so curious now to hear the other versions of these tracks with with the emotion tracker on, because these are really good. Now I'm just curious what those will sound like. So I'm gonna have to do a little digging for that. But,
yeah, I'll get you a link to a page where I found the entire soundtrack with the proper track names and stuff, which had all the different versions. It's interesting stuff, It's I felt like the neutral ones was the way to go with. Otherwise, we'd be here all night listening. To 4 different versions of every track.
Not that that's a terribly bad thing, but
worst ways
you
to
have
spend
stuff
the night.
to do in the morning. Yeah, yeah, true. But yeah, otherwise, just another absolute banger of a composition. Like, this soundtrack is really turning out to be something like, where'd this hidden gem come from?
I also really like how it's got so many different parts to it,
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing that a lesser composer would have stopped like halfway through and it would have been a fine song, but they kept adding parts to it to make the tune so much more interesting and so much better of background music. Because I don't know how long you spend in these stages, but I just love that the loop is as long as it is and as interesting as it is. It's
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I'll always mention it every episode I can. You once you catch the loop, then the track is dead. But like, there's so much like you said, there's so much going on. The length at which the loop exists, it's almost like you forget. There comes a point where I was like, wait, did we hit the loop already? Like, oh, I was usually, I can look at the waveforms, which is what I'm doing, and I can see it, but that doesn't mean that I caught it, which to me is like a great little kind of indicator that what you're doing is great. You know what I mean?
Agreed. Well, unfortunately, that leaves us with only one song left.
Yeah.
Last track of the night is the boss music. Before we hit you with the end theme for to play you out for the evening, so it's a shorty, but let's. We're doing what we're doing. Here's the boss music. It's probably some boss music. I assume this is the music you listen to when you fight the boss. Let's go and listen to the boss music. It's called Boss.
Okay.
Let's hope it's Boss. Enjoy.
Yes, boss.
Well, that was some boss music. They weren't messing around.
That was giving me some serious like Shadowgate vibes.
All right, yeah, I can see that.
There was some tiny elements of it that kept making me think of the "You Have Died" screen. Not seeing that Grim Reaper, but that's a different game. Go listen to that podcast. Great episode. This boss music was absolutely had the cadence of boss music. It kind of had the same timbre as some early boss musics and stuff. It's great though. It's another great track in an OST that's just fantastic. I'm so happy that this now exists in my world.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad to finally dove in and really given this game the respect that it deserves, considering how much I absolutely love those two tracks that I was familiar with beforehand.
Yeah.
Specifically to the point of this track, it's so chaotic. I love how it's pure freaking chaos, man.
Yeah, and choices in notes too are definitely off-putting. You always bring up the off timing. This doesn't really have that. There are elements that kind of like, there's one or two small elements that make you kind of go what, But I think in this instance, the kind of notes that are a little off are like, those are the off-putting elements.
Yeah, and I like that. I mean, we've talked so much about boss music on this show and how much we love it, and this really just kind of hits all the right notes. Man, this was a solid episode. This is solid stuff, top to bottom. Way to go.
Like a bodybuilding dwarf. Short and tight.
Short and hard, like a bodybuilding elf.
To save the planet, and well, anyway,
and build a shelf.
Hey, and build some shelves. That's such a good song.
Yeah, it is. Man, we're having an evening, me and Matt here.
We're really doing some deep cut references, man. Pre-show, we were just giggle fits.
Oh boy, oh boy. Muppet Family Christmas, man. All right, well, that was outstanding. That was a really fun episode.
Loved it.
Fun music. Loved it.
Yeah.
I just want to dig up everything Konami's ever published and listen to all of it.
From the very beginning.
Right? I mean, I don't know how many more MSX games we're going to do on this show because I have no history with it, but considering how much fun this was, this will not be our last MSX.
I think it's a good opportunity for our audience who may or may not have more knowledge than we do to tell us, hey guys, check out this game, check out this. We're all about that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. If there are more MSX games that we should cover, please let us know. And you know what? I'll ask Ollie too. I was like, hey,
yeah,
we just did Ushas. It was great. What other MSX game should we cover on the show? Because he's a fountain of knowledge of that wonderful platform. So. Well, it was a bit of a short one, but that's our show. Join us next time when we will be crossing another longtime favorite off my list, the Super NES version of the PC classic Lemmings. I'm so happy. I love Lemmings. I love the music. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so very, very excited about that. I've wanted to do this for ages. I honestly can't believe we haven't. And
I think it's going to be another one that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, right. It's just solid stuff. We here at the WaveBack podcast are incredibly grateful to everyone who listens, and we love communicating with you when we can. And we have a couple of ways you can do that. There's a Geekade Discord channel in which we have a WaveBack chat where we frequently discuss all manner of stuff related to video game music and whatever our next episodes are going to be. We also have a WaveBack forum page over on Facebook, which you can find by searching WaveBack on Facebook. And of course, you can always still send us an email at mail@geekade.com. While you're at it, check out all our social media channels, which you should totally follow, like, and subscribe to if you haven't already. And be sure to check out all the other great content we have on our site over at geekade.com. And if I didn't mention it before, this show is now available on the Geekade YouTube channel. We've been uploading some episodes, and a couple people are watching it there. So if you prefer to take back your podcasts on YouTube, it's available. You're welcome.
We gotcha.
Matt, you got anything fun you want to say before we go?
I have lots of fun things to say I probably should not repeat, but I will mention that the world's longest one-shot of Dungeons & Dragons is still going strong. We did have to take a bit of a hiatus because, people have real lives, but we will be back April 3rd, which is a Saturday, noon Eastern Standard Time, and the adventure continues. I'm very excited to see what happens next because I think we're in a bit of a predicament. Also, I'm looking to, I mentioned this, I think, previous episode, I'm looking to start back up the Stream Your Own Adventure show on Twitch, which, if you're not familiar, in order, take a book from the Choose Your Own Adventure series, and I sit down and I read it for you guys, and you tell me what direction we're going to go in. And it's a lot of fun because it's a very adult audience, and we make very adult jokes. So keep your eyes peeled to the Discord, to this show, and you will get a date, and I will see you there.
Nice. I will also throw out that the WaveBack Overplay channel is just wrapped up Mario Kart, and I can't remember if that was already done last time we spoke, but it is officially done now. And Mario Kart 8, we hit up the F-Zero tracks, which were really cool, and the Zelda track, which came out really weird, and I don't know. I had a blast at the end of that. Like, it was cool, but it was like super fun. Specifically, like all of it was super cool, but this last bunch of tracks were super fun. The next one I'm going to be doing is Metroid and Metroid Zero Mission, because I've been on this Metroid extravaganza with my son, and it's been a blast. And I already did the mashups. They sound super cool. So I look forward to that. I'm going to be posting it in the next couple of weeks or so. Should be a good time.
Nice.
Well, thank you very much for listening, everybody. We're going to leave you tonight with the ending theme. And if it's anything like the rest of the soundtrack, it's going to be great. So thanks for listening, everyone. On behalf of Matt and myself, have a good night.